Let's talk about some players who are primed to shock the world in 2025. I'm bringing you a player from every single position as a dark horse #1 overall finish candidate. All right. All players except one are being drafted outside the top 6 at their position, but I will present a case for how they can finish #1 overall. Last year on this video, I brought Jaden Daniels, Derrick Henry, Drake London, and Evan Ingram. I feel really good about the first 3, but let's go ahead and hit again here in 2025. My wide receiver dark horse #1 overall finisher this year, and I feel really confident coming out of the gates about this one, Mr. Rashee Rice, Tokyo Drift himself. This might sound crazy, but this may be the one that I'm the most confident in of all the takes I'll have today. Of course, there's a reason it's called dark horse, right? But he was already kind of snugged into that wide receiver 1 race to start the 2024 season. I know it's a small sample size. You guys have probably heard it before. Bear with me. We're going to dive in real deep here. But in the first 3 weeks of the 2024 season, he was 6th in targets per game on average, 9.7, very high number. He was 3rd in receptions per game, 2nd in receiving yards per game with 96, and 3rd in fantasy points, 21.6 PPR points per game. He was a wide receiver 2 in that span. And again, before his injury, he had one of the top utilization rates in the entire NFL. I mean, he had a higher target share and yards per route run than Jamar Chase and Justin freaking Jefferson. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about, well, we don't have enough evidence. 3 games isn't a big enough sample size. Stop. You're joking. You're kidding yourself at that point, because let's go ahead and extend a sample size to his last 9 regular season games. His last 9 regular season games. Because if you look at the end of his rookie season, that was the moment where he became the alpha for the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the moment. Not year 2. Year 2 was just an extension of that success. So in his last 9 games, is that a big enough sample size for you there? All right, his last 9 games, still an absolutely dominant performance from this kid. 9.4 targets per game, 7.4 receptions, 90 receiving yards per game, a high catch percentage, 9.5 yards per target, over 19 fantasy points per game. And let's take it even further. If 9 games isn't a big enough sample size for you, well, how about his last 13 games in total? Let's include the playoffs, all right? So from week 11 of the 2023 season to week 3 of the 2024 season, including the playoffs, he had 93 receptions, 1,068 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Guys, that is a 17-game pace of 121 receptions, almost 1,400 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Stop pretending like Rashee Rice isn't one of the most dominant receivers in the NFL last year in the last 13 games that he played, right? This isn't a situation where a team, by the way, just fed a guy because they had no other options. That's not what happened in Kansas City. Rashee showed that he was one of the better wide receivers in the entire NFL. Shout out to Ian Hartz over on Twitter who gave us this graph. This shows us last year's leaders in targets per route run and yards per route run. You'll see just Puka Nacua and Rashee Rice chilling at the top right of this graph. We love to see that. Let's take it a step further. How about targets per route run and yards per route run during the first 2 seasons for a wide receiver? This is since 2015. Again, Rashee Rice finds himself in elite company. Let's make this as simple as we possibly can. The further you are top right of this graph, the more impressive your first 2 seasons were in those categories. That's why we see young Rashee Rice amongst the OBJs, the Justin Jeffersons, the Mike Evans, the Tyreek Hills of the world in their first 2 seasons. He's right there with them. We're talking about a player, guys, who dominated target share for this team. I mean, 33% target share in 2024 before the injury. A guy that the Chiefs have funneled their entire offense through, and he was incredibly good in that role. Let's talk about the injury and suspension, because I'm sure plenty of people are going to be, talking about that. On the 23rd of April, before the NFL draft, Patrick Mahomes told a reporter that Rashee Rice had been able to do everything with him in an offseason workout they had in Texas. Then on the 18th of June at Chiefs camp, you can see him running full strength, pretty much looking like his old self. All reports claim that he should be full go for the Chiefs this offseason, and the suspension, his case is not close to being over according to every, sports lawyer that I follow, and the NFL won't take action until that court case is officially closed. And when they do take action, typically it happens for the next season. Remember, guys, back to when Alvin Kamara's case happened, he was suspended, but it was for the following season. So do not be shocked if Rashee Rice is the wide receiver 1 in fantasy through 5 weeks in 2025. All right, let's talk about a running back here. How about Mr. Downtown Chase Brown? Look, he's already showed ridiculous upside last season. And yes, Zach Moss was injured. I hear you guys. I hear where you're coming from if that's what you're going to comment down below. But even before the Moss injury, Chase Brown was starting to take over this role just outright on his own. Look, weeks 1 to 3 versus weeks 4 to 8. You can see the snap percentage skyrockets. Same with the rushing attempt share, attempts inside the 5-yard line, his utilization score, his points per game, even before the Zach Moss injury. This was already a train that you weren't going to stop. I mean, the Bengals consistently were starting to give Brown more snaps, goal line carries overall potential, opportunities, right? The trend shows us he was already primed to take over that role. And then from week 9, the dam breaks, all right, and Chase Brown is completely unleashed. I mean, he was one of the most dominant running backs in the league from week 9 onwards from a utilization perspective, had a higher utilization than Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane. Are you kidding me? All right, from weeks 9 to 17, he was 7th in carries, 2nd in targets, 4th in touches per game, 3rd in fantasy points per game, over 20 points per game in the RB5 in that span. Guys, from weeks 9 to 17, he had more points per game than Jahmyr Gibbs. What? Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. And in PPR leagues specifically, I play in mostly PPR formats, he's going to be an absolute cheat code. Guys, last year the Bengals were extremely pass happy, 2nd in passing attempts per game. Only the Browns had more passing attempts per game last year, and their offense was fantastic. It had to be, right? Top 7 in points per game, top 8 in total plays per game. They were constantly on the field because their defense was 25th in points allowed. So they constantly were giving up points. Their offense constantly had to keep them in games. It was a perfect combo of poor defense and elite offense that led to this beautiful fantasy outcome. And that gave Chase a ton of work through the air. From week 9 onwards, he averaged 5.5 targets per game, a full season pace of 93.5 targets. Alvin Kamara last year finished 1st in targets amongst running backs with 89. I mean, let's be honest. The Bengals are clearly committing to be an offensive-focused team. They are not focusing on the defense as much. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all signed to long-term deals. How about Trey Hendrickson, the best defensive player last year? Well, he's still holding out for a contract at the time of recording this, by the way. And their 1st-round pick they just took this year, and edge rusher Shamar Stewart, is also holding out because they're not going to give him the proper contract they should for a rookie. And then eventually, he's not even at camp, according to Adam Schefter. So I would be shocked if this team isn't needing to score a ton of points again to make the playoffs this year. There's no one on this depth chart that can challenge Chase Brown. I mean, Zach Moss is still recovering from that injury. Samaje Perine is there, but he couldn't even beat out Kareem Hunt or Carson Steele last year. I mean, for example, he accounted for 4.4% of the Chiefs' carries last year on a team that lost its RB1 for the majority of the season in Isaiah Pacheco. Again, look at that list that he outscored on a points per game basis when he became the starter. Jahmyr Gibbs, are you kidding me? This guy is absolutely a candidate for the dark horse RB1 in 2025, but there's a reason they call it dark horse. All right. Now, let's talk about the tight end position. In my opinion, tight end is the toughest position to argue for a dark horse finishing as the overall number 1 tight end because it just feels, excuse me, it just feels like a lock, honestly. Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, it's got to be one of those guys. However, my dark horse tight end 1 is Jonnu Smith. Let's not forget, Jonnu Smith was on a lot, and I mean a lot, of fantasy football championship winning teams last year. And I'm aware Tyreek Hill dealt with the injury. I get that. But this guy absolutely exploded second half of the season. From week 11 onwards, outside of the big 2, Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, no one else had a higher utilization rate at the tight end position than Jonnu Smith. I mean, he was more critical to his offense in that span than George Kittle, Mark Andrews, and Sam Laporta. And if we remove tight end from the equation, from week 11 onwards, he was the most important receiver on his team in Miami. He was more important to them than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, guys, remove the week 11 onwards tag. Jonnu was the most important receiver in Miami the entire year. Point blank period. He had the better utilization rate by far. It wasn't even close. And that led to some ridiculous fantasy outputs. From week 11 onwards, he was 3rd in targets, 2nd in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, 1st in fantasy points, and 3rd in fantasy points per game at 18.6. He averaged more points per game than Brock Bowers in that span, David Njoku, George Kittle, and Sam Laporta. And Miami is the best fit we have ever seen for Jonnu Smith. Truly, Tua has been so good for him. If you compare his career production with and without a Tua, he's averaging more than double his fantasy career points per game with Tua than without him. On the left-hand side, you can see in 14 games, 12.2 points per game. Without Tua, 6.28. However, even if Tua goes down with an injury, Jonnu has already shown in this Mike McDaniel system that he has a safe floor. If you look last year alone, on the left-hand side, with Tua, he averaged 14 points per game. Without Tua, 11.6. So yes, his upside is capped if Tua goes down, but it's not the same way that the upside of a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle's upside gets slashed. It's just not even the same thing. So he's a very safe pick with a ton of upside, and it really does feel like he found his home in Miami. And honestly, it's unlikely any dark horse tight end finishes tight end one number overall or whatever. But if he starts on the pace that he had last year, anything is possible. Draft with me every night this offseason on the FastDraft app, where there are over $250,000 in prizes waiting to be won. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at signup to get your deposit match up to $50. That is 10 free drafts on us. And when you finish your first real money contest, I'll send you my 2025 rookie report and season rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today. All right. Let's go to the quarterback position. My quarterback, dark horse, number one overall finish, is a rookie from 2024 that I believe is the most disrespected, underappreciated rookie of last year's class. That is brother Bo Nix. What is the disrespect about? I don't know. I think it's because people disrespected him before the draft, so now they're continuing because they didn't like the name. I don't know. But I'm telling you, this man was dominant last year. In the first 4 weeks, he struggled, sure, as a rookie, getting his footing in the NFL. But from week 5 onwards, he genuinely dominated the NFL. Guys, look at how much better he was from weeks 5 to 18 versus 1 to 4. His PFF grade skyrockets, completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio through the roof. And in fantasy, he was a quarterback 5 from week 5 onwards and averaging 21.5 points per game. Guys, what if I told you that from week 5 onwards, brother Bo Nix outscored on a points per game basis Jaden Daniels? He had more points per game than Patrick Mahomes in that span. Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray. He easily outscored Mahomes on a points per game basis in that span, yet Mahomes is going like 3 rounds above Bo Nix. I don't get it. I mean, let's take it a step further. Bo Nix had a historically good rookie season. Guys, here's a list of quarterbacks in the last 25 years who in their rookie season had 350 PPR points, 3,200 passing yards, and 400 rushing yards. It's a very short list. It includes Cam Newton. What a good fantasy quarterback. Jaden Daniels, we know how good he is. Robert Griffin III, we know how good he was as a rookie. And then Bo Nix, that's it. That is the list. Point blank period, that's where it stops. And he did all of that last year in a completely below average situation with very little help. Guys, Denver was 20th in rushing yards per carry. Denver's leading rusher ranked 42nd in the NFL in rushing yards, Javonte Williams at 513 yards. Courtland Sutton was the single only reliable offensive weapon he had all year, and this year, as he can take another step, help is on the way. And that help looks like Evan Ingram, a tight end known for pass catching and yak. RJ Harvey, a good pass catcher out of the backfield with juice they took in round 2. J.K. Dobbins, a much better RB2 for this run game. Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, young players that could continue to get better. Pat Bryant, a rookie they just drafted that can elevate everybody else's game because of the competition. Bo Nix is truly a dark horse quarterback 1 candidate in 2025, and I have a feeling a lot of fantasy championship teams are going to have him rostered at the quarterback position. All right. Now, I did all 4 positions, but I want to give you a little bonus here, all right? Because I like to have fun. Y'all like to party. My name's Rod, and I like to party. How about a bonus at the running back position in Christian McCaffrey, all right? The case for CMC, it's about as simple of a case as you could possibly make, honestly. The case is he's already done it 2 times. Actually, he's had 4 seasons where he has finished top 2 amongst the running backs in fantasy football. I mean, if we look at his career, and specifically at a points per game basis, he has scored over 21 points per game in 5 of his last 7 seasons. So of course it is possible. It's ridiculous how scared people are to pick Christian McCaffrey this year. I mean, he's going in the 2nd round. Guys, if he stays healthy, he's going to win you your fantasy championship, and you get to take him in the 2nd round. Imagine starting your fantasy draft with a CeeDee Lamb, and then you get Christian. It's blowing my mind how affordable he is. Of course, there is risk. There is risk with any player. What if I told you that any single player that you draft in fantasy this year, they could go down with an injury? That's the nature of football, all right? This is not badminton, all right? It's a contact sport, ladies and gentlemen. But here's the deal. In May, his offensive coordinator, Clay Kubiak, said he's an elite player and we're going to do everything we can to get him the ball as much as we can. A month ago, Kyle Shanahan says Christian is about as ready as any player I've ever been around. Right now, he's as healthy as he possibly can be. 2 weeks ago, CMC talked about how he rehabbed all offseason to make sure he wouldn't have any of those availability issues, and he did it. And he's on an elite offense that has a great supporting cast with Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall. How in the world do you stop this offense if CMC is healthy? Guys, you can make a really strong case that the only thing that needs to happen for CMC to have a shot to be the RB1 next year, the only single thing that needs to happen is that he stays healthy. That's as simple as the case can be, and you get to get him in the second round. I mean, do you guys play to get in 6th place in your fantasy football championship? I play to get number 1. I play to win the whole damn thing. That's why I will be drafting Christian McCaffrey in every single draft I can in the second round. All right, I really appreciate y'all watching the video. If you liked it, drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. I appreciate you. But look, a video like this that I just brought you, it's all about upside. It's about pure upside. How can we hit in fantasy football? Which honestly describes FastDraft's Flex 4 tournament to a T. Every time I'm in a tournament, I'm thinking, who has the most upside? It's as simple as it can get. You draft 6 players, there's no positional limitations, and the top 4 get entered into your lineup each and every week. All upside for every pick, $50,000 prize pool. I would love for you to come draft with me. Here's a recent draft that I did where I got Rashee Rice in the 4th round. That's probably not possible anymore, but the reality is the earlier you draft in these FastDraft drafts, the better you can exploit the ADP before it kind of fixes itself. So if you want to draft with me, download the FastDraft app, use a promo code LAND. We'll match your deposit up to $50. And then you're going to get my cheat sheet for the 2025 season completely free, as well as my rookie report. So would love for you guys to come draft with me. And if you do sign up, DM me on Discord. I'd love to get you into my FastDraft group chat where we draft together. But that is it for today. I appreciate y'all watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know down below who your dark horse #1 overall finishes are in each position, and enjoy the rest of your week. Nothing but love. If you're thinking about supporting us in this economy, that's big love, and you deserve love in return. So for every yearly Mother Flocker member who uses the promo code LAND, we're giving out a free team playbook, our 2025 rookie report, access to all premium tools, free site vouchers, and of course, a huge thank you from the LAND crew.